Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nancy Dressel. I'm the president of Wisconsin Reads, and we are thrilled to be hosting our last Literacy Lunch and Leads session of the 2022-2023 school year. I'm so excited for today's session because no matter where you are in your science of reading journey in your schools, the task of launching and sustaining professional development is always on our minds. And so I'm thrilled to have Justin Browning from Cox Campus with us today, sharing about launching and sustaining professional development. Thank you so much for joining us, Justin.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Hey, everybody. My name is Justin Browning. I'm the K-3 Field Implementation Coordinator at the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. And so on behalf of Cox Campus and the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy, it's all a family and an umbrella. You're going to see exactly what that looks like here in just a moment. We're just thrilled to have the moment today to share with you a little bit about what it looks like on our end and how we can partner with you as you launch and sustain professional development. So let's go ahead and jump in. So let's start with who we are. I want you to get to know Cox Campus as a friend and a partner in the work wherever you are, whether you're with a district, a literacy organization, or anyone who really is a child-facing adult that supports students becoming readers with a deep reading brain. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, why I didn't say proficient, but anyone who is a child-facing adult is important in this job of ensuring that every kid that we face becomes a reader. So let's talk about who we are at the Rollins Center, Cox Campus, and how we're connected to the Atlanta Speech School. You can see right here on this slide that the Atlanta Speech School is in the middle. It's in the green. And so it's in the green right there, and it's centered because the Atlanta Speech School is really our teaching hospital, if you will. It's a school that provides precise science-driven engagement and instruction based on the sciences of healthy brain development and language development and the literacy construction for students right here on our campus in Atlanta. As a part of the Atlanta Speech School, we have the Rollins Center. But before we move on, we're located in Atlanta. If you will, in the chat, let me know where you're coming from. And I'm kind of curious to see where people are in the nation. Awesome. I see Wisconsin, of course, we're in Wisconsin, but all around Wisconsin. So we have multiple districts, multiple people in different cities joining us. Also see that we have a Georgia friend here. Awesome. So we are the Atlanta Speech School. Like I said, you should be able to see now that green circle. It is located in Atlanta. The Rollins Center is a professional development wing of the Atlanta Speech School. And the Rollins Center has an online campus called Cox Campus. So if you can think of it as concentric circles, the Atlanta Speech School is the teaching hospital, which then the Rollins Center takes the work of the Atlanta Speech School, and we are able to amplify that work through Cox Campus. And so that's how we're able to have a deep impact and make a broad reach. So our mission at the Cox Campus is literacy and justice for all. This is really our vision. And when we think about that, we know that literacy and literacies are more than reading and writing. It's a way to think critically about the world. Justice for us is really our mission. We want to make sure that through the teaching of science and language, every child has the opportunity to have the literacy skills that they need to think critically and to act boldly and to reshape the world around them. So we know that this happens by making sure that we have a healthy ecosystem. Think of an ecosystem. Think about your third grade teacher that had that little jar where everything was growing and thriving inside. That is really the goal, is that we want to create an ecosystem where language and literacy is a central element where children can really thrive. If every adult who works with children has these skills, then we know that every child will grow up equipped to challenge systems of oppression. We want to use literacy as a way to disrupt. Here's our mission. So what do? We cultivate expertise with educators, system leaders, families, and advocates across really the sciences of healthy brain development, language, and literacy, so that all children can think critically and act boldly to reshape the world. I said earlier that we think more of our work than just getting students to proficiency. We really want to ensure that children are developing a deep reading brain where they can then use their skills of being a proficient reader to really impact themselves and to impact the world around them. When we think about who we are and the way that we act in this ecosystem, we want to make sure that our work is rewarding, empowering, connecting, safe, and essential. We like to say that we have a theory of change, and that theory of change looks like this. We want to develop a deep reading brain, and a deep reading brain is essential to literacy and justice for all. If child-facing adults have the knowledge and the skills and the agency to implement these three things, healthy brain development and prenatal care, language and literacy and birth through 5 care, so thinking about pre-K and early learning centers, and the science of reading in K3, then third grade children will read proficiently and be on a path to a life of self-determination. We know that none of this takes place unless that work is grounded in making sure that strong relationships are in place, trauma-informed practices are in place, and they're immersed in a curriculum in which all children can see and be themselves. So this is really critical to our work, and you're going to see how we bring that to life. So our team, we have a large team, a little bit over 40 people, I believe, on the Rollins Center team, and it represents decades of educational experience. We have people with PhDs in neuroscience, we have principals, teachers, special educators, all across the spectrum. So together, we're a talented and diverse group of people and change agents that are really committed to disrupting the system. If you will, take just a moment in the chat and let me know the role that you play in your school. So I see we have an instructional coach, some principals, awesome, you're in the right place today because we're going to be talking about how we can really impact schools. A director of elementary teaching and learning, awesome, NTSS. All of these people are important parts of the ecosystem, and we see people just like you reflected in our team right here at the Rollins Center. You'll also note, take a moment to view the names on this screen. This is our National Advisory Council that really supports us as we're creating our work for both the field and online for Cox Campus. Hopefully you see some familiar names on there. We're really honored to work with these people as we provide the very best resources and courses for free to you and other organizations across the country. So what do we do? Well, we do a lot. You can see right here that we host live events and discussions on Cox Campus. We have 1,000+ resources. We really partner with everybody in a child's life. And then we also provide hybrid coaching and coaching groups online. There are 30+ internationally accredited courses, all the way from perinatal through literacy. You'll often hear us say through literacy, not through third grade, because we know the reality is that most students, not all, right? But data shows that the majority of students, really 3rd, 4th grade and beyond, are still struggling to be fully literate. And so we say through literacy. This little infographic shows you a little bit about our work and why it's free, right? It's free because there's over $15 million worth of coursework available, and that's funded through philanthropist dollars and the generous donations of many, many organizations and people who provide these courses to you for free so that there is no paywall to the science of reading. We've recently surpassed 200,000 members online, so we're a growing community, and it's a thriving community of learners right there on Cox Campus. If you don't have a Cox Campus account, go ahead and go to the website that I'm dropping in the chat, coxcampus.org, and you'll be able to sign up right there. There's a little sign up button right at the right-hand corner of the screen. So literacy and justice for all. This is really our vision and our mission all together. You can see right here how we work from the very beginning of a child's life all the way through literacy, or when they are literate. We're currently working in the field with 3 school districts right here locally, as well as we have a national coaching cohort, so we're reaching leaders across the nation that way. you can see right here a few of our other partnerships that we support. So we're touching many people locally, but also across the nation. If you go to coxcampus.org, you can also learn more about our work there. Take a moment to look at this little testimony from one of our friends at the Georgia Department of Education, just to give you a little bit of an idea as to what she thinks about the Cox Campus courses. So you can see that they benefit pre-service teachers, expert teachers. They really benefit anyone who is child-facing that needs to learn more about the science of reading and how to put structured literacy into practice. So what does this look like? How do we partner with people in the field? You can reach out to Dr. Nadia Jones. She's our Director of Partnerships. Her email is right there on the screen. But we really take this four-pronged approach. We listen, we plan, we implement, and we act. And so I have the privilege today to talk with you about what this work looks like with one of our partners in the field. Hopefully this gives you a snapshot, kind of a general idea of what our work could look like if we were to partner with your school or if we were to partner with your organization. So let's talk about our implementation model. And I think the best way to do that is to share a video with you that one of our partners is highlighted in. You'll actually see in this video how that theory of change is brought to life. And so it will talk about what we're doing in the birthing hospitals, the early childhood centers, and the K-3 schools.
When we started this journey with the science of reading, I remember telling staff that this could be one of the most significant points in their entire professional career.
We have been given an opportunity to learn all different kinds of strategies and reading practices and best practices that are rooted in science and have given us the opportunity to then take those practices and implement them in our classroom with our students.
Working with teachers, working alongside the partners, we have created curriculum that is open access to providers that were never there before.
To be able to have access to not just the quality text, but to have quality training and coaching, which really help them to build their confidence as teachers and to bring new life into their classrooms.
And you could walk into a kindergarten room, a first grade room, or a second grade room, and you can see teachers putting it into practice, and then what that has led to in the results of our assessments and students becoming better readers or getting to that process of becoming better readers.
That, to me, is one of the greatest successes over the course of the year, is to see how staff not only embraced the science, but embraced the change in the classroom practices. And for that, there's incredible hope and optimism for the future.
And it truly is a community effort. And we learn as we grow together, and that's the beautiful thing. You know, so as organizations evolve and change, we're right there with them, creating the content that they need to continue to do this amazing work.
Centering the expertise and wisdom of our teachers and growing alongside of them, building skills, knowledge, and agency, but really building on what is already existing.
I think the best part of this approach is it really is child-centered. It's really meeting them where they are and then taking them to where we know they can eventually be. They can be fluent, they can be independent, builds vocabulary, it eventually leads to great comprehension.
The things that these children are able to do every single day, learning something new and reading a harder word or a harder book or a harder passage, is bringing such excitement to these teachers to see these children really come leaps and bounds in such a short amount of time.
It is our goal to provide every child with the opportunity to develop language and literacy skills that will help them be a well-grounded, self-sufficient human being who is reaching their full potential. The fact that we are looking at development across a continuum, being able to tie together elements from the prenatal space and the hospital space is really important. So this partnership with Wellstar Kennestone, which is led by Dr. Krista Payne and her team, is really important to help make that connection between home, school, and the community.
We had a teacher who spoke highly about a DLL student that she had, and she struggled a bit with finding the resources. But throughout this process with the LGFA and the support that we have provided, she has seen the progress.
It's reaffirming what's in their toolkit, and they see that, oh, you're doing the same thing I'm doing in my small group to help close the language gap or to help close the literacy gap.
If your literacy rates are perfect, then keep doing what you're doing, but the reality is it doesn't exist anywhere in the country. And when you know better, you do better. And that's really not only what we're learning and doing, but it's also what we're leading and modeling.
As we think about next year and where we're headed together collectively, I'm so excited about what's happening when teachers are positioned as they are, as leaders who help shape our collective work, who build knowledge and skills and agency in themselves and in each other, who harness all that they are and know and really work together.
This is our opportunity, this is our chance to really make a difference, in every child. And if we're able to just impact one child, that can change, the trajectory of their life, and who knows, that child may change the trajectory of this entire world.
So it really is my joy to get to talk to you about something that I've been closely connected with for the last 2 years, and that's that work that you just saw in Marietta City Schools. This is a partnership with the Rollins Center, and so you will definitely notice that I'm probably talking from experience here, and I'm going to be walking you through this so that you can see what it looks and feels like to partner with us, what that process would entail, but also what this might look like if you choose to do it on your own. So there's really two options that we can talk about at the end, but really we just want to support you in making sure that there is a easy, clear launch and sustainability to the professional development that you're offering your teachers. So right here, I love this. This is by James Clear. So James Clear has this really quote that I want to share with you. And he says, sorry. That is not working the way I want to. So basically, James Clear, what he says is we all have goals, right? We all have goals, and goals don't make the impact. What makes the impact is the strategy behind those goals. And so we want to ensure that the strategy behind the goals is clear and easy to follow for the partners who partner with us. What you're going to see come up on the screen right now is a tool that we use called the PetR. And so we really start our partnership by doing a needs-based assessment, making sure that we can identify where systems and structures need to be in place so that we can reach the goal. So the PetR looks like this, and it is downloadable online. I'm also going to drop it in the chat just in case you would like a copy of it. But the PetR is the planning and evaluation tool for effective school-wide reading programs. And this tool helps you identify where those systems and structures need to be strengthened. It is a perception-based assessment, and so you would gather a team of people together that represent your literacy leaders in your building. You would then give the assessment and have some conversation around what was perceived and then what is reality. I want to show you right here how you can measure that with it. It gives you evaluation criteria, and then it also asks for documentation of evidence. And so you would see that maybe there's perceptions that aren't exactly reality, and so then you would try to either find this evidence or get to a place where this work is evident in your building. And so that is in the chat just so you have access to it. Here are the elements of the PEDAR scan. It really measures these domains: goals, objectives, and priorities, making sure that literacy is prioritized in the building, assessment, instructional practices and materials, instructional time, differentiated instruction and grouping, and then administration, organization, and communication, and then lastly, professional development. And so this tool has been really helpful as we've worked with districts and schools to craft a plan really on the leadership level. Here's that quote I was looking for, I'm sorry. James Clear says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Systems and structures have to be in place in order for our goals to be met." So one of the ways that we partner with districts is by walking them through these equitable literacy outcomes. So this is our wheel of equitable literacy outcomes, and it gives us 6 areas where we focus our partnership: instructional coaching, culturally responsive practices, core reading program, this is really include making sure that you have all the high quality instructional materials needed to reach the 5 pillars of reading: data and assessment, MTSS and intervention, and then teacher professional learning. A little bit more is included here to tell you a little bit about those, just to make sure that you have a deeper understanding. This can also be found on the Cox Campus website for leaders. One of the first things we do is we look at Peter Sengay's work, Dr. Mary Lippitt. There's several variations of this, but it's really change management and thinking about this being a change management process in schools and what has to be in place in order for this change to take full effect. And you can see up here at the top of the screen that it has to be trust, vision, skills, resources, some kind of payoff, and then an action plan. And that leads to change. You can also see underneath on these rows that if one of these things is missing, then you're going to have a different outcome. And so if you're experiencing any of these things with your staff as you're rolling out the new initiative and as you're really implementing professional development, it may be that one of these things is missing. So after we do some district-wide work around really strategy and making sure systems and structures are in place, then we begin to create a sample course roadmap. So using the Cox Campus courses, we would create a customized roadmap with you, or you could create one on your own that shows which courses you would take in what order, and then when you would meet to discuss and really dig into the application portion of those courses. So this is just a sample. We would also take time to consider the time, the talent, and tools needed to roll out whatever was included in that coursework. And so when we think about how we can support this work, it often falls in these 3 buckets. How are we utilizing our time? How are we utilizing our talent? And then what tools are available to make sure that this is successful? With the district that I'm currently working with, we also go through a process of identifying technical problems and adaptive challenges with each rollout. So what we do is we call these cycles. So take, for example, if we were doing the phonics course, we would say this is our phonics cycle. That means for a period of time, we're working within the district to make sure that teachers have the knowledge around phonics and that they have the strategies and anything that they need to make sure that their phonics instruction is meeting the needs of students. And so in order to do that, we have to look at what are some technical problems that this could bring about, and then what are some adaptive challenges. And we really list those and make sure that at the district level, we're removing any barrier to this work coming to life and really being successful. One of the lenses that we look through while we're doing this is what I call the Literacy and Justice for All cycle of success. So we want to make sure that strong planning is in place. We know that if there's strong planning for that phonics instruction, then that will lead to strong execution. If there's strong execution, then that will lead to high engagement. And then if there's high engagement, that will lead to high achievement. So we're always looking through this lens when we're rolling out a new cycle or a new course. We, of course, use what implementation science tells us around context and effective innovations, making sure we have that. But we took that implementation science and narrowed it down and said, hey, if we want to do one thing in the schools, it's really get to positive outcomes for students to increase literacy outcomes in our buildings. And so we do that by using this, this equation that knowledge plus action equals positive outcomes. So we know that teachers have to have the knowledge before they take action. And consider this for just a second, that oftentimes in schools, because we're moving so fast, we take action. So they're handed a box, a program, a tool, and it's like, use this. But we don't have all the knowledge and the why behind it. And so we make sure first that we build that knowledge behind whatever we're rolling out in the cycle. So whatever, if it's phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, using read alouds, comprehension, writing, oral language, any of those, we build the knowledge behind it so that they understand the why, the what, and the how, and then we take action. And I want to make sure that you understand here that action can really be replaced with implementation. And the knowledge and the action have to happen really at the classroom level, the school level, and the organizational and the district level to ensure that those positive outcomes are met for students. Here's just a picture example of what that looks like. This is me leading a group of teachers in a knowledge PLC. Generally, these are 45-minute PLCs that we do with teachers that are coupled with the coursework from Cox Campus. So when we think about building knowledge, how do we build that knowledge? They take the asynchronous, they take that asynchronous coursework online, and then we have some kind of synchronous experience where we're all together and we're learning, we're deepening and developing that content knowledge to ensure that then we can turn around and transfer that into action. And so in most schools, so I'll show you a schedule here in just a second of what that looks like throughout the week. But in most schools, when we're in a school for a cycle week, when we're leading the professional development, it would be 45 minutes of knowledge and then a 45-minute action session. And we'll talk more about what that looks like here in just a moment. One of the frameworks that we use, though, is a know better, do better approach. Of course, that comes from Maya Angelou's quote. But as you're watching the videos, to be an active participant, because we know in this world of technology and the input of media all the time, it can become a passive experience. And so we want to make sure that teachers are really thinking about what is the knowledge I need to acquire through this coursework? And then because I have this knowledge, what is it requiring me to do? So thinking about it through this frame, because I know blank, I should blank. And we really want to situate everything around this idea of the knowledge that we have and then the action that it requires. So thinking right here about dominoes, knowledge really matters from the top down. And we had the opportunity in this school district to meet and train the school board, to train the superintendent's leadership team. So imagine the chief of finance in the district learning about structured literacy and the science of reading. That's entertaining, but that's the person who's making decisions around funding. And so that person needs to be clued in to what is happening. District leadership attends all of the PD, whether that's a district level PD or whether that is PD that is at the school-based level. Someone from the district has knowledge of what's taking place in schools. School-based administration is required to attend that because you can't lead what you haven't learned. And that's really important, that you position yourself, if you're a school-based leader, as a leader along with or as a learner, along with the teachers and the staff that you serve. We then partnered with instructional coaches, literacy leaders, classroom teachers and support staff, and paraprofessionals. So anyone who is facing a child throughout the school day is for sure trained, but really anyone who is responsible for making decisions that impact that student, that teacher, that school also needs to have this knowledge. And so when we're thinking about scalable and sustainable implementation, I want to walk you through kind of play by play what this has looked like for us in the school district where I'm serving now. So the school district that I'm serving from the Rollins Center, what we've done is we have partnered with them and they have hired for next year, 4 district science of reading facilitators. So how this works is that those 4 facilitators partner with the Rollins Center and Cox Campus to be trained at a deep level so that they can then turn around and serve the schools that they're assigned within their district. Way back when, we used to do the Rollins Center, Cox Campus would come in, do the training, and then we would leave. And so we changed this so that it could become scalable and sustainable within that environment. We would then train the district leadership. So yearly, there's a district meeting where district leadership is together. They receive the training along with principals and assistant principals at a deep level. So this is generally like a leadership retreat over the summer where we have a full day, 2 days to dig deeply into the content that would be covered over the next year. So think about both a deep level of understanding, but also getting a big picture idea of where we would be going for the entire year. That's important to a leader. Instructional coaches come together and are trained by the science of reading facilitators. So those are the people hired by the district that have received training from Cox Campus. So they would come together before every cycle to get a coach's preview. And so they would have a deeper understanding of the knowledge before it's rolled out to teachers and the staff that they serve in their building. So you can see how this is all lining up, right? Leadership is trained, principals are trained, and then coaches are trained. And then next we're going to have the teacher training. And we're going to look really closely at what that looks like here in just a moment. But teachers receive training every cycle. We've had 7. So we've had 7 instructional cycles, like coaching cycles, where they receive PD each year so far with Marietta City Schools. And so they would receive 7 cycles of coaching and support around work that they have taken coursework on. And then media specialists and support staff, meaning paraprofessionals, maybe some of those auxiliary team members who don't deal with literacy so much, but they can still support this work, they would receive training as well. This image, I think, is really important to pay attention to. This is what the weekly cycle schedule looks like. So when we're walking into schools, this shows when that science of reading facilitator is walking into that school, they may be assigned 3 schools. So this is 1 week, 1 school. And before they get there, this is important, that the online modules have been completed prior to the PD cycle. So they've taken the Cox Campus coursework, the teachers have, there's a little bit of Velcro created that they can then attach their knowledge to. And so here's just a sample schedule. On Monday, there would be a cycle kickoff with school leadership. This is where that science of reading coach would go over the cycles and indicators, or the cycle goals and indicators with the principal and the school leadership. So what are our goals for this cycle? And then what are the indicators that we know that those goals have been met? They would also go on learning walks. When we think about learning walks, we're talking about walks where they're just looking with open eyes, they're listening, and then they're learning. And so some conversations around what's happening in the lab site classroom, and then what's happening in one random classroom per grade level. You're probably thinking, what is a lab site classroom? A lab site classroom is one identified classroom per grade level that serves as really the setup for success for that grade level at that school. Because we know that science of reading coach, while they're in that building, can't touch every single teacher in a deep way to ensure solid, I don't want to say solid understanding, but ensure deep understanding. There is one person on that grade level that coach is training, that coach is coaching. And there's also that one room that we make sure the environment is reflecting exactly what we want it to do. We're very careful here, though, not to call these model teachers. We call them lab site teachers. We don't want this expectation that they're the star, that they're the model. They're still a learner too. However, they're getting a little bit more impact during the week when that coach is there to ensure that when that science of reading coach exits that building, there's a place where the instructional coach in that building, where the leadership in that building can take other teachers as a model. So think of it that way. The teacher isn't necessarily the model, but that room might be used environmentally as a model. And that teacher may also be someone that they observe as like peer observation, but there's no like, I want to say, I think at one point we tried to call them the expert teacher. They're not necessarily an expert. They're just someone who's getting a little bit more training, and they're teachable, they're coachable. It's that person in your building that you know will take a hold of the work quickly and run with it. And so we observe them. We also observe one random classroom so that it doesn't feel like it got you at any point. And then we debrief those learning walks and review next steps. So that would be like a Monday. On a Tuesday, that would be a knowledge building PLC, meaning that we're digging deeper into the knowledge from the Cox Campus coursework to ensure that that knowledge is solidified and the teachers are ready to then take action on that knowledge. The goal there is really to cultivate expertise of new content aligned to those cycle goals. We would also then, when there aren't knowledge PLCs taking place throughout the day, that science of reading coach would work very closely with the instructional coach in the building to ensure that they are able to lead this work when they are not in the building. So then Wednesday and Thursday, you can see up there, there's a bar that says flexible. What happens here is the action PLC. An action PLC can look one of 2 ways, maybe even 3 ways that we've done it. One is that they observe a lab site model. And so that would be the science of reading coach from the district actually modeling in a real classroom exactly what we expect to see. This helps us really make sure that we are able to say, hey, this can work with the students right here in the building where you're serving. It also allows teachers to ask questions and to really internalize procedures and models that were taught during that knowledge PLC. It may also be that they're taught right before they go in, like, hey, here's something that I want you to do. Now go watch me do it. And then they have a moment to process that afterwards. So generally those last about 25 minutes out of a 45-minute segment. So there's a little bit of a beginning where there's an overview. There may be a little bit of teaching from that science of reading coach, and then they go into the classroom, they observe that lab site model, and then they come back and they debrief. You can see on Wednesday afternoon, they get together to communicate implementation expectations with what we call an implementation team in the building. And so that implementation team includes admin. It includes someone from like special education, EIP. So any kind of department leads that need to be there would be there. And then also the lab site leader for each grade level. That team is really, really important that they meet after the Knowledge and Action PLC, because they're the ones that then flesh out, what does this look like for implementation right here in our building? What resources might we need? What do we need to consider? How do we want to calendar this out into bite-sized chunks to ensure that over the next month, all of these things are in place and in play? And so that takes place on that Wednesday afternoon in that implementation team meeting. So you can see that right next to it, that those two things are very closely connected. And then at the end of the week, there are specific cycle walkthroughs and a leadership debrief. So whatever was taught the cycle before, then we're observing very closely at a granular level to see, is that sticking? Where do we need to provide additional support? So that might be through the lens, if you just taught phonemic awareness, we're just looking at phonemic awareness during that walkthrough, where earlier in the week, that learning walk was really look, listen, and learn about anything that we need to see and maybe address. Before they leave the school on that Friday, the science of reading coach would then review implementation, the plan for them, and determine the next step. So what's happening between the time that they leave and then the time that they return. And then they, of course, complete some kind of summary with accountability measures to hold that school accountable. So hopefully that gives you a very, very quick idea of what this could look like if there was a science of reading coach that served multiple schools, and what it would look like for 1 week. There is a lot of work that has to take place around leadership being ready to take on the ownership of that work once that science of reading coach leaves. So that's why it's so important that they have the knowledge and that they're involved in this process, because it really takes everyone to transform those literacy practices in schools. Here's just an example of a monitoring walkthrough form that we would use. You can see the rating right there is like negative, don't see it, positive, yes, we see it, IP is in progress. These are used not for teacher evaluation, but really for us to, it's really for implementation's sake, for us to monitor implementation. So we're really clear about that we're not evaluating the teacher through this process. We're evaluating how the implementation has taken hold and then how we can support the teacher with that implementation. I'll give you my email address at the end of the session, and I'm happy to share those forms with you if you think that's something that could benefit you as you begin your journey. So all of that is important with how we implement, how we keep it sustainable. It is, I will say, we're on year 2 right now, going into year 3. Year 1 work gets a lot of, like if you're working on the word recognition work of structural literacy in year 1, you have to keep a careful eye on making sure that language comprehension continues to stay up, because what happens is whatever you're focusing on gets all the time and energy. And if you're not focusing on it in PD, then it kind of falls off a little bit. So you want to make sure that you're continuously raising all the things while maybe just putting a spotlight on the implementation effectiveness of one. I hope that makes sense. But year 2, it's the upkeep of all the year 1 work along with the year 2 work. And so creating a system to ensure that new teachers are trained. We do a new teacher academy. So we have a 1-day new teacher academy at the beginning of the year, and then half days throughout that first semester that they come together to get caught up if they are new. And so that's a little bit about how that work looks and what it feels like. Let's now talk about how Cox Campus can support you. And so pretty easy. Of course, Cox Campus coursework is absolutely free, and our Science of Reading Suite will be completely rolled out and finished by the end of July. So you should see every course. Right now, we have 11 courses up there in the K through 3rd space. Oral language, vocabulary, reading comprehension are coming down the pike, as well as an overview course. And then there's the reading disabilities and dyslexia work that is also being developed right now. So you can see those courses are absolutely free, available to your staff and to you to make sure that that knowledge is there. And it's free forever. Once you have access to it, you will always have access to it. You don't lose access over a year. They will always have access to those courses. At the end of the course, it will give you a course completion certificate. And so there is a way to monitor course completion within your building. So 2 ways that we can partner with you. One is a locally led free always plan, and this could be developed through the Cox Campus Professional Development Plan. There is on the leaders page, and I will drop that link here in just a minute when we get into Q&A, but there's a leaders page on Cox Campus that has our coaching guide. There's some information in there that will support you. Creating a professional development plan very similar to what you saw earlier that has the courses, kind of the why for those courses, and then a timeline. That's easily developed for free. Teachers can engage in monthly facilitated year-long journey discussions. And so one of the things that we offer is we offer an opportunity for really a national cohort to get together and have discussions around phonemic awareness and phonics and all of these big buckets that the courses are focused on. And those will continue within the next year. They are finished currently for this year, but I will drop in the link, the chat. We'll drop in the chat the links for the recordings for the last 2 years. So that will be coming in just a moment. And then you can see that we also provide monthly office hours. You can have a Cox Campus coaching group. So it's pretty much just a back end where you can see the completion of people in your organization, who's completing courses. You can post announcements there. You can post resources there. We can provide that to you for free. And then, of course, data sharing of teacher and student outcomes. So we would love to partner with you and see how this is impacting your data as you implement the work. So then the next navigation model is really based on a contract. So we would work with you to customize what that would look like. There's the local leadership package, which means that the leadership that's in your building is partnering with us. We're helping you navigate it by having a kickoff session led by a Rollins facilitator and a coach. There's then some goal setting around those 6 elements of equitable literacy. So going back to that wheel that we looked at. And then additional workshops, coaching, and leadership support can be provided around those 6 elements of equitable literacy. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we can see how that work is being impactful in your buildings as well through a data sharing agreement. So the fun part about this is that there's a lot that can be customized. There's a lot of offerings that we have. There's a lot that we've learned through the experience of implementing currently in the schools and through the coursework that we provide. And so we're eager for opportunities to partner with you to learn more about you and what your needs may be. I do want to name before I let you go that we are more than a platform. It's really a community of learners. We're all in this together to ensure literacy and justice for all. And so we want to make sure that we're connecting scholars to practitioners just like you and making sure that practitioners have access to the science. You, of course, could join one of the leadership cohorts that will be starting in the fall. Those are generally announced over the summer months. So make sure you sign up for coxcampus.org and you'll be receiving emails that way. But then also throughout the year, there are special events and lectures. And those events and lectures, we have the Montag lecture yearly that brings in a big name speaker, really an opinion leader that can provide some additional insight around a topic. And then special events like book clubs, or we did a Literacy and Justice for All live with one of the schools in Marietta last year. So several special events that will pop up that will help you kind of get a front row seat to the work that is taking place. Okay, well, that was a lot of talking. And so I just want to say before I leave that if you're new to Cox Campus, sign up. It's quick, it's easy, it might take 30 seconds. So feel free to do that. It's always free, very easy. And then I want to give you some information as to how you can connect with us. Feel free to connect with us through coxcampus.org. You can also connect with us through Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, email if you want to go that way. That's an easy way. But really the person you want to connect with if you're considering how can we partner together to support you is Dr. Nadia Jones. She's our Director of Partnerships, and her email is right there, njones@atlantaspeechschool.org. So Nancy, I think we're open now for questions, and I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much, Justin. I'm just so thrilled for all this information that you shared today, because once you start learning about the science of reading, you immediately know how much you have to learn. And the fact that there's a free resource that's high quality, led by scientists, available makes equitable literacy possible for all. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we'll open it up for the Q&A.